From the world headquarters of Whitney Global Media, this is 1460 WVOX and WVIP HD2, New Rochelle.
North Korea back on a terror list. I'm Jared Halpern, Fox News. President Trump redesignating North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism.
Should have happened a long time ago. Should have happened years ago.
And North Korea was removed from the list in 2008 as part of a nuclear negotiation. President Trump says new sanctions will now be imposed on the North Korean regime.
It'll be the highest level of sanctions by the time it's finished over a 2-week period.
The president calls the step long overdue, part of a maximum pressure campaign. Sudan and Syria are also listed as state sponsors of terror. President Trump did not take questions about Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, but the first woman to come forward accusing the conservative Republican of inappropriate sexual contact is speaking out. Fox News Radio's Evan Brown has that live.
Jared, Lee Kaufman is one of the women accusing Roy Moore of making advances on her when she was just 14, even going as far as taking her to his home and undressing her. Kaufman tells NBC she's not getting paid by anyone to tell her story, nor did she initially want to.
The Washington Post sought me out. I didn't go looking for this. This fell in my lap. It literally fell in my lap. And I had to make a decision.
And that she only agreed to talk with reporters if other women came forward as well. Moore denies all of the claims, Jared.
Senator Al Franken now has a second accuser. A woman told CNN the Minnesota Democrat put his hand on her buttocks while posing for a photo at the 2010 Minnesota State Fair. Franken, in a statement, says he doesn't remember taking the photograph, but feels badly the woman felt disrespected. Franken apologized last week after L.A. radio news anchor Leanne Tweeden posted a photo of Franken touching her chest over a flak jacket as she slept during a USO tour. New York Times White House correspondent Glenn Thrush suspended as well amid a Fox.com story detailing harassment allegations. Dow up 90. This is Fox News. Fair and balanced.
Have pain you can't ignore? Then try first-in-class relief from Salon Pass. Salon Pass pain relief patches have everything you need in one clinically proven solution. They're the strongest label pain reliever available without a prescription, safely relieving pain for up to 12 hours. And Salon Pass is the first and only FDA-approved OTC topical pain reliever. For first-in-class relief, get Salon Pass pain relief patches in the green box with a blue wave.
I'm Jay Farner from Quicken Loans. Choosing the right mortgage lender involves much more than just a rate. Quicken Loans has earned 11 J.D. Power Awards for client satisfaction. And we invented Rocket Mortgage, a simpler, hassle-free way to get a mortgage completely online. No one else has anything like it. So choose Quicken Loans, America's #1 online lender. Call Quicken Loans today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com. That's 800-QUICKEN.
Equal housing lender, NMLS number 3030.
A star of stage and screen, Della Reese, has died. Fox News Radio's Michelle Polino has more live in Los Angeles.
Jared, many fans will remember Della Reese as Tess in the CBS series Touched by an Angel.
Well, I guess you did a pretty good job with that 747. Because somebody, and I do mean somebody, has decided to give you a promotion.
Reese began as a gospel singer in church. At 13, she started touring with Mahalia Jackson. From there, she moved on to jazz and pop music.
And I know someday.
Roma Downey, who co-starred with Reese in the series, said, "I know heaven has a brand new angel this day." Reese was the first black woman to host a TV talk show and an ordained minister. Jared.
There's a $20,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of whoever murdered a U.S. Border Patrol agent and seriously wounded another in Texas. Governor Greg Abbott authorized that Crime Stoppers reward. Agent Rogelio Martinez died yesterday after sustaining injuries during a patrol in the Big Bend region. His partner was also injured and is listed in the hospital in serious condition. Zimbabwe's longtime leader, Robert Mugabe, working toward a roadmap for that country, according to the country's military. Mugabe is facing impeachment, but has remained defiant as members of the ruling party call for his resignation. Mugabe is under house arrest after the military moved in last week, but military leaders insist there's no coup. There is some political uncertainty in Europe's largest economy and likely means new elections in Germany. German Chancellor Angela Merkel's Conservative Party unable to form a coalition government with two smaller political parties. Merkel says she's skeptical about forging ahead with a minority government. There'll be a change for a key economic U.S. leader as well. Janet Janet Yellen, chair of the Federal Reserve, has submitted her resignation from the board in a letter to the president. She says she'll stay on the job until her successor is sworn in. I'm Jared Halpern. This is Fox News Radio.
From the WVOX News Center, I'm Jared Sorello. Very windy conditions across the lower Hudson Valley on Sunday, causing some problems across the area. The National Weather Service reported wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour, even some isolated reports of 50-mile-per-hour gusts on Long Island, causing some power outages across Westchester County as well. Officially, a 48-mile-per-hour gust was recorded on the Tappan Zee Bridge, a 47-mile-per-hour gust at Larchmont Harbor, and a 46-mile-per-hour wind gust at White Plains Airport late yesterday morning. Emergency crews were called to the report of a man falling off a rooftop of a building in Yonkers over the weekend. It happened on Hamilton Avenue in Yonkers at about 1 in the morning, when police say the man fell from a third-floor rooftop. That was about 1 a.m. Saturday. The man was reportedly alive and responding to paramedics at the scene. He was taken to Jacoby Hospital. No word on his latest condition today, however. Governor Andrew Cuomo's office is denying allegations that he ignored repeated complaints of sexual harassment from one former state employee against another. The complaint names the defendants as Sam Hoyt. Hoyt is the former president of the Empire State Development Corporation and the governor. Lisa Marie Carter accuses Hoyt of sending her a lewd photo and then groping her after he got her a job at the Department of Motor Vehicles. Her lawsuit claims the governor's office simply wanted the issue to, quote, go away. Hoyt stepped down last month after the accusations surfaced. And back to Yonkers now, where Mayor Mike Spano is urging residents to shop at small businesses during the holiday season. He says supporting local business owners is important for the city. Spano says there are more than 12 small businesses that have been operating in Yonkers for more than 100 years. The mayor will visit Gino's Pizzeria to show his support for a local business owner. I'm Jared Sorello in the News Center for 1460 WVOX.
And now with your latest up-to-date forecast, here's Steve Pellettieri's Eye on Weather on 1460 WVOX.
Forecast Westchester County and the vicinity for tonight, mostly clear skies. Overnight lows into the middle 30s. South winds be gusting to 25. Sunshine on Tuesday. Tuesday's highs will range into the middle 50s. Mostly cloudy, not as cold at night. Maybe a shower, lows dropping into the lower 40s. On Wednesday, partly sunny, diminishing winds through the afternoon. Highs to around 50. Mostly sunny Thanksgiving Day, but colder weather into the lower 40s. Similar weather continues Friday. We'll see Pellettieri Jr. reporting for 1460 WVOX, Whitney Global Media Station.
45 degrees. Thank you for joining us on 1460 WVOX, America's great community radio station where many different voices are heard in the land. Opinions expressed on our community and open line programs are not necessarily those of the station, its management, or sponsors. As always, we're privileged to amplify the voice of the people here on Vox Populi 1460 and worldwide at WVOX.com for you and yours.
VOX. Close to home. Close to you.
1460 WVOX.
Stay tuned now for Westchester Eye on the Radio with Peter Moses, John Sharan, and our Dina Seward on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome, everybody, to Westchester Eye on the Radio. I'm Peter Moses with my co-host John Sharan and Ardina Seward. John, welcome back from your trip out to Republicanville.
It's a lot warmer out there than it is back here.
And what's the debate in Arizona right now about what's going on in our national election?
Well, the real issues out there is going to be who's going to replace Jeff Flake.
That's, I'm sure, true. Where do they fall in the Roy Moore issue?
Don't know. That wasn't discussed.
Didn't come up?
No, it didn't come up.
Interesting. You think in a red state like Arizona, who knows who they're
They fall on their sword.
So we have this is Thanksgiving week, or American Thanksgiving week, as we know. In Canada, Thanksgiving falls in October, but ours falls in November. And on this Thursday, I'm sure everybody knows, we have a guest today who we can talk about Thanksgiving, the history, what it's come to mean, and what it's come to mean for her people. We have with us on the phone today from North Dakota, Ladonna Brave Bull Allard. Good afternoon, Ladonna.
Good afternoon. It's good to be with everybody today.
Well, we're happy to have you on. I understand that you that you met my friend of 30-some-odd years, 33 years, Ardina, at Riverside Church, which is, a very important church in New York City that was founded by Rockefeller money.
Yes.
Yes, she was at she was at a Riverside Church Peace Movement Gala dinner, and she was honored along with some other notables. And today she has, this is actually breaking news, because Ladonna, you were at the court today seeking a repeal of the conviction of the protesters. I think it was a year to date, correct me if I'm wrong, regarding the pipeline.
So this morning we delivered 55,000 petitioners who signed our petition asking for the water protectors charges to be dropped here in Morton County in North Dakota for the event of 2016. And today, November 20th, marks the anniversary of when Morton County, the Sheriff Department, Tager Swan, and the militia groups attacked the people with water cannons, percussion grenades, military-style mace, and rubber bullets. And so we are remembering that day. Also, that we left that day with 2 women who were permanently injured, Sophia, whose arm was partially blown, and for Susie, who lost her eyesight in one eye.
And how did it go with the hearing today, as far as you could tell?
We went in. There was Holyoke Lafferty and Phyllis Young and myself who delivered the petition. And the state's attorney said that he could not comment either way and accepted the petition from us. We did explain the meaning of the petition and why we were doing this, because we had almost 400 people already gone to court. Majority of their charges were dropped. We're just asking for an additional 400 to be dropped as well.
Did you find it ironic that the state of Nebraska today approved the Keystone Pipeline on the same day you went in there on a similar issue with a different company?
We were waiting for the hearing to find out what they were going to do. It does not surprise us in the midst of an oil spill that is in South Dakota right now. When the oil spill was first recorded, it was 210. Now we are up to 600 gallons of oil, and that could not even be the final amount.
You mean 600,000? You mean 600,000, not 600?
Yes.
Okay.
And apparently, Ladonna, people are being, they're being sold a bill of goods saying that it isn't, that it's far enough from the reservations that it won't have any impact on the reservations. But that's a lot of oil leaking into the ground. So how is that possible that it won't impact the reservations?
So it is right off the Siston Reservation, but it is above the Ogwalla Aquifer. The Ogwalla Aquifer is the water source for North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas. It is one of the largest aquifers that we have. And we have no guarantee the oil has not made it into the aquifer.
And if it does make it to the aquifer?
That affects millions. Pardon?
And if it does get into the aquifer, it will affect millions of people, and it would take many, many decades to be ameliorated, I would imagine.
Yes.
Well, this is a cheery way to start our show. When we come back, we're going to be speaking some more with Ladonna Brave Bull Allard or Allard. How do you pronounce your last name?
I did Allard.
Allard, okay. But we weren't sure. About this contentious issue, and it's important to America. And in addition, we're going to talk about Thanksgiving, because I did a little research today about the history of Thanksgiving, and it's not exactly the history that we think it is. This is Westchester Eye on the radio on WVOX, WVOX.com. We ask Ladonna and all our listeners to stay with us through this long Fox News and Fox Business News break. And after that, We'll be back with our guest.
And now with Fox News commentary, here's Fox News Radio's Todd Starnes on 1460 WVOX.
Hello, Americans. I'm Todd Starnes with news and commentary next.
Have pain you can't ignore? Then try first-in-class relief from Salon Pass. Salon Pass pain relief patches have everything you need in one clinically proven solution. They're the strongest label pain reliever available without a prescription, safely relieving pain for up to 12 hours. And Salon Pass is the first and only FDA-approved OTC topical pain reliever. For first-in-class relief, get Salon Pass pain relief patches in the green box with a blue wave.
The NFL took a knee. I turned the channel, never looked back. So I was not aware of what happened in Mexico City until I was alerted by several of our listeners. The Oakland Raiders and New England Patriots were playing in Mexico City. Marshawn Lynch of the Raiders stood for the national anthem of Mexico, but took a knee during the Star-Spangled Banner. You know, it's one thing to protest America on American soil, but to disrespect your own nation on foreign soil? Mr. Lynch's unpatriotic behavior drew the ire of President Trump, suggesting he should be suspended for the remainder of the season. I doubt that'll happen. Roger Goodell doesn't have the courage to stand up to the players. And I predict a day of reckoning is fast approaching. Empty stadiums and fewer viewers mean dwindling advertising prices. And that means the fans could do what the NFL refuses to do. Bench everybody. I'm Todd Starnes.
You're listening to 1460 WVOX.
Dry cleaning. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I have a real thing about this, and I've been telling you for years that when it comes to custom quality dry cleaning, you know, where you get your clothes back in perfect shape without that awful chemical cleaning smell, there's only really one dry cleaner that I know of in all of Westchester you can always count on. Scott Solomon Solo Clean. It's on the Post Road in Mamaroneck, New York. So if you want your valuable clothes returned in like new, pristine condition without that awful commercial cleaning smell, please try Solo Clean. The cost for their professional custom handling is really, incidentally, really the same you're probably paying right now. Solo Clean in Mamaroneck, New York on the Post Road. They're the best dry cleaner in Westchester. I'll go up against anybody on that claim.
Whitney Media's WVOX is very proud of the relationship we have with churches in Westchester and the Bronx. Some of those churches have been with us for over 40 years, spreading the good news of the gospel to listeners all over the metropolitan area. To encourage those who preach the word, WVOX has for years set aside valuable one-hour time slots on Saturday and Sunday at our very reasonable and greatly discounted local religious rates. To learn more about how this unique station, one of the most honored in the country, can amplify the magnificent voice of your pastor and news about your own congregation, call David O'Shaughnessy, our Executive Vice President at our Westchester headquarters, 914-235-3279. All denominations of worship may qualify for WVOX's special religious rates. To amplify the voice of your pastor, call David O'Shaughnessy during the week at 914-235-3279 or email david@wvox.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, be ready. For the first time in New York, this new show, The Seer, with Prophet Zogo. Every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m., Wednesday 5:30 p.m., and Saturday 6:30 p.m. Your life will never, ever be the same. So listen to The Seer every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m., Wednesday 5:30 p.m., and Saturday 6:30 p.m. here on 1460 WVOX and WVOX.com. Your life will never, ever be the same.
This is Jen Graziano of Zion Memorial Chapel and Cox and Graziano Funeral Homes. Every Wednesday at noon, I am here to talk with the WVOX listeners about subjects we all need to know and think about. Time to Talk, every Wednesday at noon. We'll have our lines open for you to call and ask questions about what families should know at very sensitive times of life. So tune in at noon on Wednesdays, and let's take the time to talk.
business news at 20 past the hour. Here's the latest update from the Fox Business Network on 1460 WVOX.
From the Fox Business Network. Fed Chair Janet Yellen has resigned. She announced she will leave the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors after her successor as Fed Chairman, Jerome Powell, is sworn in. Yellen's term as head of the central bank ends in February. Many cities have smoggy air caused by diesel emissions, including London. London is now trying something new, using small amounts of oil produced from coffee grounds in some of its buses. And when it comes to women in the music business, who do you think earns the most? Forbes magazine says it's Beyoncé. She earned $105 million from June 2016 to June of this year. Runners-up to Beyoncé include Adele and Taylor Swift. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Carol Zimmer.
Have pain you can't ignore? Then try first-in-class relief from Salon Pass. Salon Pass pain relief patches have everything you need in one clinically proven solution. They're the strongest label pain reliever available without a prescription, safely relieving pain for up to 12 hours. And Salon Pass is the first and only FDA-approved OTC topical pain reliever. For first-in-class relief, get Salon Pass pain relief patches in the green box with a blue wave.
WVOX. Now Westchester's only community station.
1460 WVOX.
Let's return now to Westchester Eye on the Radio with Peter Moses, John Sharan, and Ardina Seward on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome back to Westchester Eye on the Radio, our weekly discussion of issues relating to Westchester and the surrounding area. I'm John Sharan, along with Peter Moses and Ardina Seward, and today we have a special guest phoning in, Ladonna Brave Bull Allard, talking to us a little bit about the way Native Americans are dealing with our Thanksgiving holiday and also dealing with issues she's dealing right now with the Dakota Access Pipeline out in North Dakota. And Ladonna, you were telling us a little bit about what was going on there and how you were dealing with the Nebraska ruling today that they were going to allow progression of their pipeline or their portion of the pipeline in Nebraska.
Yes, so right now, as we just got the word for their notification, we will start sending out notifications to everyone in our groups to let them know what our next strategy is.
Now with the...
we are far from over.
Go ahead.
How many tribes are affected by that oil spill, Ladonna?
So we are one nation, Oshete-Shaw-Cohen, and so when you say how many tribes, we are 14 reservations and 9 Canadian reserves in my nation alone.
Wow!
And how many people?
I couldn't even give you that number. All I know is about 14 million people are affected.
So, and have you heard through sources what the real size of that spill is? Because we're going to hear one thing on the news, but we're going to hear one thing from people who have boots to the ground.
So, like I said, it's about 600,000 barrels right now, and that is just the estimate we got yesterday.
But has anyone in an official capacity spoken with tribal leaders to try and give them a perspective on what they can expect, what sort of remedy they have? How are you being advised?
Right now, how these things happen is they send a perimeter up, they put in their security guards, and then they close down communications.
So no one is allowed in or out, and basically it's under this kind of black shroud until they decide to let us know what's going on.
Right.
Now, going forward, I know this is new, What kind of strategies are you thinking about to deal with this?
So, as you know, there are already camps in the pathway. There are many different strategies. Each state is taking a different strategy. And it's a large coalition of people. And so we'll let the future know what they will be.
What about has the EPA reached out to you? What is the relationship with the EPA, if there is any relationship?
There is no relationship.
No. Now, what about livestock? How many? I know I'm asking for you to pull statistics out of your memory, but how much livestock it would be affected in this oil spill?
Right in the oil spill that's happening right now, I cannot give you that. I know that it is farmland.
Which means that it'll affect the wheat crop, it'll affect soy crop, it'll affect all those crops. But in addition to that, you also have migratory birds of all sorts who land in all these different places. And there's lakes and there's rivers. And if the aquifer gets impacted, that'll impact all those bodies of water as well. And, we were talking during the break, and John seems to be up on some of this information. It could take many, many years to clean up an aquifer.
Remediation is one of these things that needs to be tackled quickly, and it needs to be tackled thoroughly. And unfortunately, because it's very expensive, it almost never is.
Right. So one of the things, that's what I've been asking. I have no data on how much of the things that crawl on the ground, the insects, the small ground animals, because people just don't keep data on them. And then we have the larger animals, turkeys, deer, antelope, all of these things that are very prevalent out here. And so we really have no data coming in from how much has been devastated. We're hoping to see if we can send people in to negotiate to find out information.
And part of that problem is that, right now we haven't had a permanent frost yet. We haven't had the ground freeze, which actually would have benefited the situation, made cleanup a little easier, because there'd be a buffer between the oil being able to seep into the ground and not if the ground had actually frozen. But it hasn't yet, and that just makes the problem that much worse.
Yes, that's very true. We are a little bit warmer than we should be at this time of year.
People always say, well, that's happening out there, it's not happening here. But if this continues, when you have to fork over $10 for a Big Mac this time next year, then I think people will start to take notice.
Well, if not just a Big Mac, but she says it's farming land, so it's whatever your vegetables are that are being grown out there, and also the fact that land might not be usable for some time, so therefore you reduce the amount of farmable land. And that's another restriction on an already hungry population.
And as we reduce farmland, we reduce the product of food out to people.
Mm-hmm.
And farming is sort of becoming it's
an industry. It's no longer a family business anymore.
It's an industry, and unfortunately, it's been very difficult for farmers to make a living. And I was just reading an article this weekend about how the suicide rate amongst farmers has increased. Depression, anxiety, because they just cannot pay their bills, and nobody's listening.
Well, and the farmers, they don't have a great deal of income, and the cost of farming is skyrocketing, and so much that the corporations have now taken over the farming industry.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Well, I think on the other side, we're coming into a break soon, and on the other side of the break, Ladonna would like to talk about Thanksgiving, what it means from a Native American perspective, and what we can do to honor Native Americans, even Native American recipes, Native American dishes. So, folks, stay tuned. If you want to call the comment, it's 914-636-0110. You are listening
from the
Westchester Eye on the Radio.
Steve Ballard Jr. reporting for 1460 WVOX, Whitney Global Media Station.
45 partly.
VOX, the local station with a national reputation.
1460 WVOX.
Let's return now to Westchester Eye on the Radio with Peter Moses, John Sharan, and Ardina Seward on 1460 WVOX.
And we are back live. This is Westchester Eye on the Radio. I am Ardina Seward. I am with my fantastic co-hosts, Peter Moses and John the Man Sharan, who is back from Phoenix, bringing in that sunshine. And our guest today is Ladonna Brave Bull Allard, and she's calling in live, obviously, from North Dakota. And we're talking about a lot of issues that impact Native Americans. One, an oil spill that we're still trying to get the 411 on, and we probably won't for a while. But we're also going to talk about Thanksgiving and what it means. So when everybody sits down this week to eat the turkey and give thanks, let's give a shout out to Native Americans.
Do you know the story of when Thanksgiving really became an American holiday?
Go ahead, Ladonna.
Tell us, Peter.
Do you, John?
I do not.
Let Ladonna tell us.
I don't.
Well, I do know that it was, I believe, in Eisenhower's reign.
No, Thanksgiving was first promulgated as a holiday during the Civil War by Abraham Lincoln, who said he wanted to bring up the fact that Native Americans and new immigrants from Europe were able to break bread together. They came from disparate beliefs, and so he thought if we create an American holiday with that as the backdrop, that Southerners and Northerners could learn to get along again. Now, the history books say that Thanksgiving first started in 1621.
Right.
But that's as fanciful as Delilah cutting off Samson's locks. I mean, it's just a story.
Right. And it relates, just like you'd expect from Currier knives, or you'd expect it from Hollywood or something like
Even
this.
Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
So let's hear it from the Native American perspective. So, go ahead.
Well, as you know, when the first settlers came into this country, they came in with very little knowledge of living on the land. And in Europe, they had a different system where the hierarchy were able to have meat and all of these things, and the people who lived on the ground drank things like porridge and things, and so there wasn't a large survivor skill in how to live in the wilderness. And so when they came here, they didn't know how to get food. They didn't know the plants and the type of food that was available here, like corn, tomatoes. We can go through the wide list of vegetables that are from America here. And so what had happened was the settlers were coming in and they were starving. So the Native community started bringing in food to them to help them. And then it came a point where they were starting to get better, and so they went into the Native communities and took their food.
That sounds about right.
And they went in and they loaded up the women and children. They sold them into slavery and totally annihilated whole groups of people.
So when Thanksgiving, when everybody's sitting down and they're having their Thanksgiving dinner, what is how do Native Americans celebrate Thanksgiving? At
least in your part of the world.
Yeah. How do you regard that day?
So, it's a catch-22 because traditionally in our communities, we have what we call harvest time. And so at harvest time, we have a big feed and we feed everybody in the community. Everybody comes and they eat. And that is kind of the equivalent of how they're looking at Thanksgiving, is our harvest festivals. On the other hand, on the Pacific Thanksgiving Day, a lot of people nowadays who understand the history feel like it's a time of grieving, a time of remembering of the 500 years of oppression that Native people have gone through and still continually go through. And so it's a catch-22 for Native people. One, Native people are the most impoverished people in America. So at least a large percentage can't even afford a turkey.
And they're out of the public eye. If they're living on reservations, they are out of the public eye. So we wouldn't even know this unless someone from the community told us.
Right. So the average person on the reservation can't even afford a Thanksgiving dinner. They are struggling for food on their table. I think we did an estimate. The average yearly income for a Native person is $12,000 to maybe $15,000 a year.
Wow, that's below the poverty level.
We're below poverty level. We don't have a hierarchy system. We don't have a middle class system, and we don't have upper class. We only have poverty and below poverty.
Ardina or John, have you ever been to a real reservation?
I have not.
I have not.
Well, I saw several of them when I was visiting my friend Tim, who you met several times, in Montana, and our traditional view of what a reservation looks like couldn't be more different than the reality. It's not a bunch of longbow wooden structures. It's trailer parks.
Oh, because
in many parts of the country. Now there are some tribes, at least the ones in the Northeast, the Mashantuckets and the Pequots, who've started these vast gambling establishments, and those tribes are doing very well.
They're doing better. I mean, the bottom line is
they're doing much better. But you go to the Great Plains,
right,
and to the Southwest, and in parts of the Midwest where there are substantial Native American groups, and it's what Ladonna was saying. It's frightening to go there. The level of poverty, the lack of potable water, the lack of access to potable water, electricity in some places is an issue. Getting proper schooling, getting proper medical care, having access to grocery stores. I mean, these are things in many of the remote parts of this country that are what Native Americans are being confronted with. I mean, Ladonna, it's the same case in North and South Dakotas, right?
That is my reality. We have a large land mass, 2.3 million acres on the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. And within that structure, we don't have the infrastructure. We still have people without running water. We still have people without electricity, people who don't have telephones, people who don't have cars. And so we still live, and hate to say it like that, but horse and buggy, we still are very much horse people. We still live in our traditional lifestyles, which is more of a communal-based existence, so that we share a lot of food, we share a lot of events. So if, like myself, who has a job, part of my income goes back into the community because there is so little in the community. And so Thanksgiving is a struggle for us.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about this after our final break. You're listening to Westchester Eye on the radio here on WVOX 1460 AM and heard worldwide at WVOX.com. Our special guest today is Ladonna Brave Bull Allard, telling us a little bit about Native Americans and their struggles and their reactions to Thanksgiving. And we'll have more conversation about that right after this brief Fox News break.
WVOX, local and vocal, every day, every night.
1460 WVOX.
Let's return now to Westchester Eye on the Radio with Peter Moses, John Sharan, and Ardina Seward on 1460 WVOX.
And we are back for the final quarter hour of Westchester Eye on the Radio with John Sharan, Peter Moses, and myself, Ardina. And we are talking with Ladonna Brave Bull Allard today. And she is a historian and an activist for the Lakota tribe. She's calling in live from North Dakota. Ladonna, I'd like to ask, what can we do to honor Native Americans on Thanksgiving?
I think for me, one of the first things would be try to find out what the true history is and acknowledge the history and just be aware. What I'm finding is people don't really know our history. I've been out to the East Coast and been confronted with people who say, I thought all you people were dead. And so we're very much alive. And so everybody asks me, what do you want the world to know? I want the world to know that we are still alive. We still have a very thriving culture, language, tradition. One of the greatest things that I think we can benefit America is we have the history of this land for thousands of years. We can tell you the names of creeks and hills. And I think that is a benefit for every American, is to be able to share history, knowledge, culture. And I think it would be a benefit to America.
Have you seen, in your lifetime, have you seen members of the white community reach out to members of the tribe or leadership of the tribe to try to create dialogue, to try to understand each divergent cultures and try to come find some commonalities?
Yes, I have. There has been a great partnership and alliances with certain groups, and we are very honored by those groups, but we need more. We need history books to talk about us. We need the schools to have a correct history of who we are. I think that developing a partnership and an alliance with people across the world is important to give a true history. We have so much knowledge that we can be sharing with each other.
Exactly. I'm sorry, go ahead.
One of the things like even food, as we're going across this Thanksgiving Day, we have traditional recipes and traditional foods that we eat that are healthy for you.
And by the way, the food would be completely different in the Southwest. Like fry bread is very popular in the Southwest, New Mexico, Arizona. But I would imagine, I'd be surprised to learn that was something that people in the northern territories, the northern states, have that same food culture. Yours is completely different, correct?
So fry bread is something that's been brought in by the settlers. That's not a traditional food.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
Now considered a part of our food. We're a high protein people, and so we eat a lot of buffalo, a lot of deer, antelope, elk. We do have rabbits and stuff. We're a high protein, but we also have knowledge of the plants and roots and stuff that go through. So like one of our common foods is dried meat with berries pounded in it. Did you know that when you consume berries with meat, it cuts down the fat content?
No.
All of our natural foods are to make your body healthy. And it is some of this knowledge that I think we should be sharing in this time.
Berries inside your meat lower the fat content.
Mm-hmm.
John, you don't have a weight problem, but I mean,
but
must be interesting to you.
You think that would relate back to cranberry stuffing and things like that in a turkey, that may be a reason for having that.
It offsets the fat.
Yeah.
It offsets the fat. It would say, since there's so many organizations that seem to be walking the same path as Native Americans. I'm surprised that there aren't more partnerships. You have the Sierra Club. You also have a lot of homeopathic groups who would seem to fit perfectly with Native American groups in terms of medicinal remedies, as far as conservation. And I'm just curious as to why that isn't happening.
I think what I'm finding is people didn't know how to talk to us and didn't know how to reach out to us. Right now, we did form a partnership and alliance with the Sierra Club, and so these things are starting to happen. And I think it's just the fact that they didn't know how to talk to each other.
Now you're an educated woman. Did you grow up on a reservation, or you grew up in a more traditional community for many Americans?
I was born in Fort Yates, North Dakota, on the Standing Rock Reservation. I was raised most of my life on the Standing Rock Reservation. I was, as any normal Indian childhood, taken from my family, and I was sent to school in North Adams, Massachusetts, and high school in Bennington, Vermont, and I graduated from the University of North Dakota here.
Wow, that's a circuitous route. And you were taken from the tribe and moved east by whom?
Churches.
Yeah, there was a big movement at that time where a lot of Native American kids were just basically kidnapped from their families.
Yeah, and you can even go back and look at people like Jim Thorpe and see things like that.
Absolutely, but this is a more modern version. I knew about it in the Jim Thorpe times. I did not know that this was more. This is just as prevalent.
When did this stop?
I guess it never stopped.
In 1985, Native parents finally won the right to raise their own children in America.
1985.
Yes.
And this practice went on for how many years, Ladonna?
It started in 1830s.
And what impact did that have on the community?
It caused a lot of social issues where the parents had a hard time relating to the children when they were returned. They took the children at the age of 5, returned them when they were 18.
And how did they justify doing that?
The United States believed if you removed the children from the families, you broke down the culture, you broke down the commitment to the land, and we would no longer have that relationship to the land.
It almost seems like by design there was a concerted effort to just wipe out Native Americans, take their land away, break down their social structure, and just cause them to disappear. Am I being overly cynical, or are you in agreement?
I am in agreement. We have all the historic data that says that very thing. One of the problems we have is our spirit is still very much alive. We are still very grounded, and the fruits and roots go right out of our feet down into the earth, and we still stand.
And you're going to continue fighting. Has the younger generation taken up the baton, taken up the struggle, or do you find people leaving the reservations for a more modern world, for lack of a better word?
I find that in Native country, the people are coming back to the reservations, and people are not leaving. So it's exactly the opposite. There is not much out there. In America, their world is collapsing. The corruption, the insanity, the abuse, the structure in societies are not functioning very well in the cities.
Well, in order to, it was a case of self-preservation. The Native Americans just had to become stronger in order to survive. Now, has there been
and more malleable in some ways too,
and more malleable also? But the movement will continue. Now, is there any lobbying going on in the school systems to give more information, correct information on Native Americans, and to basically stop the propaganda that kids are learning in history class?
So in the 80s and 90s, we had great strides. In 2010 to now, the United States has went backwards again. But I have great hope for America and their education system.
So we are getting to the final couple of minutes of the show. If people want to reach out to Native Americans, if they want more information on Native Americans, is there a place that they can learn? Is there a place that they can write to? Even if they want to donate to Native Americans during the Thanksgiving season, what can they do?
So each reservation is unique and different. You can get online and Google the tribe that you want to communicate with, and they would have an address and contact information.
That's a really good idea. Unfortunately, we're up against a hard time, and we're going to have to say goodbye for today. But
you have a great day,
and you too. And I hope that this week goes easier for you than past ones have. Being reminded of what's
injustice.
happened, the injustice, what has happened to the community over the many, many decades and centuries. Ardina, who's next week?
Next week we have the return, be warned, folks, of Jerry Azar, otherwise known as Jerry Bezar, and the boys are going to talk sports, folks. So tune in. Westchester Eye on the Radio.
Oh, boy.